What's up everyone, welcome back to another What If video. So, this video is going to be combining two concepts that I get asked to cover a lot. One of them revolves around the fact if Bardock and Gine somehow survived. And the other concept, well, I'll keep that a secret until the middle of the video. But, I'll tell you now, it's something that a lot of people have asked to see. So really this is kinda two what ifs in one. Fitting for a 75k special. Thank you by the way. I'm surprised we got to 75k subs so fast. And I guess that means the next goal is 100k. But in all seriousness, thank you guys. So as a thanks, I hope you can all enjoy this special video. Let's set a like goal of 3,000 likes, and I'll continue this series once we hit that. But first, let's actually get into the scenario. We begin on Planet Vegeta, around the time that Bardock and Gine sent Kakarot to Earth. Not too long from now, Frieza is about to attack, planning on destroying Planet Vegeta. Bardock can already tell, something bad is about to happen. But he's kinda torn, should he stay and fight, or should he and Gine abandon the planet? Joining Kakarot by going to Earth, he begins thinking, and he prepares 2 space pods just in case. He doesn't plan to go to Earth right away, because if it turns out that Frieza notices him and Gine leaving, he doesn't want Kakarot to be in danger as well. So, these ships have a course set to some random low-level planet that Frieza probably won't notice. Once Bardock and Gine escape, they'll go to that planet. And if they're fortunate enough to make it there alive, then after that, they'll know Frieza's not on their backs and then they can go to Earth and get Kakarot, followed by them finding Raditz. It seems like a good plan, right? There will be an issue that pops up later. Not too long after, Frieza attacks Planet Vegeta. Bardock wants to fight back. He feels it's cowardly to just escape now and not try and make a resistance. But really, he knows there's nothing he can do. No matter how hard he tries, Planet Vegeta is doomed. And he's been thinking, running away is the smart choice. He curses that he even has to do this, but it's good that he and Gine prepared. As the planet is destroyed, he and Gine get on their space pods, heading towards a randomly selected planet, hoping that they somehow aren't spotted by the Frieza Force. From space, they watch as their planet is destroyed, with everyone on it dead. This is obviously a very stressful and sad moment for them, and Bardock's rage towards Frieza builds up. He promises, one day, he'll be strong enough to defeat Frieza. He'll be strong enough to avenge the Saiyans. With all the commotion of the planet being destroyed, Frieza's forces don't even notice that Bardock and Gine are escaping, because their space pods get camouflaged by the explosion, hurtling off into space towards some unknown planet. And here's where they face their first issue. After weeks, possibly months of travel, they begin approaching a planet, but they encounter some major turbulence. Their ships crash land. Thankfully they're both safe, but once they exit their ships, they notice some issues. The ships are damaged, with fuel leaking out and the electronics going down. This is bad. They might not be able to fly anymore, and even if they somehow could repair them, there's no fuel now. So, they begin looking for a place to find shelter in. They can't tell, is this planet uninhabited? Sure, they knew it was low priority, but there's gotta be some form of life here, right? And eventually, they find an odd-looking city, so it appears life does exist here. And as they walk in carrying their stuff, they're met with a bunch of aliens who notice the ship landing. Bardock and Gine introduce themselves, saying who they are and why they're here, looking for help. Thankfully, the species seems to be pretty welcoming. The species is a group of people called the Yardrats, with the planet itself also being called Yardrat. They don't know it, but this is a very good place for them to land. Although, they're going to be stuck here for quite some time, possibly forever. But the Yardrats are glad to help. They know of Frieza, and thankfully he's not here to attack the planet. This Bardock person apparently wants to oppose him, but he's not strong enough, and of course he's stranded on this planet. He can't even use his scouter because he doesn't want to be noticed. Fortunately, the Yardrats have some techniques that they could teach him. It seems this guy wants to pursue some training, and he could potentially be a very good student. Eventually, Bardock begins being trained by the Yardrats. For years, a couple decades actually. He and Gine stay on this planet, getting adjusted while Bardock trains. He learns some really interesting and powerful techniques, and thankfully, he and Gine are actually able to live a somewhat peaceful life. Sure, Kakarot and Raditz aren't here, but they can still live as a family in other ways. You'll see what I'm hinting at. Bardock even learns a technique called instant transmission, so it looks like he does have a way to escape off this planet. But the thing is, he can't sense Kakarot. Occasionally, he does sense some familiar powers around the universe clashing, involved in battles. As he learns to sense Ki, he senses an evil Ki which he assumes is Frieza. Occasionally, from the same planet it seems like, he also feels giant powers clashing. What planet could that be? He's not going to teleport there though because he doesn't know what's going on, but he takes note of this. Too bad he doesn't know what Raditz's Ki feels like, because otherwise he might be able to find him, Vegeta, and Nappa. Same for Kakarot as well. He can only hope for the best. But it's good to know this technique because if he ever needs to leave, he can. And with all his time here, he can pretty much learn everything that the Yardrats have to offer. But then, one day he senses something threatening. A really high power is approaching towards Yardrat quickly. but also fading out at the same time. The Yardrats are a bit nervous, but Bardock goes and checks it out, trying to figure out what's going on and ready to face this potential threat. He ends up in a somewhat remote area, and above him, he sees a ship approaching, and he's immediately concerned once he sees what the ship looks like. He can't really make it out from here, but it looks like the same kind of space pod he used to get here, and there's some sort of logo on the side. The ship eventually crashes into the ground, and he immediately knows what the logo is. It's the emblem of the Ginyu Force. His guard is up, and he's ready to fight. But then, the hatch on the pod opens. And what Bardock sees is way more shocking than any Ginyu Force member could be. It's someone that looks exactly like him. There's no way. Is this Kakarot? He's unconscious, it seems, injured. With his knowledge of spirit control, thankfully, he could heal. So nervously, he gives Kakarot a quick jolt of energy, bringing him back to consciousness and healing some of his wounds. He's assuming this is Kakarot, and he hopes he's not here for bad purposes. Goku wakes up, and at first, he assumes he's looking in a mirror. A guy is standing in front of him and he looks exactly the same. Kakarot immediately jumps out of the pod and jumps back, realizing this is another Saiyan, assuming it may be a threat. Both are confused, with Goku on high alert and Bardock not knowing what to say. He says one word, Kakarot, and Goku confirms it's him. But how does this guy know his name, and why does he look exactly like him? Bardock drops his guard, smirking. He introduces himself as Bardock, saying that he's Kakarot's father. There's no way. Goku doesn't even know where he is. And he's somehow on the same planet as the guy that claims to be his dad? Weren't Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta the only ones left? The two are speechless, but Bardock begins giving his backstory, explaining what happened. So, Goku explains what happened as well, also explaining that his name is Goku now. But I guess he's gonna have to get used to the Kakarot thing early on. He already knows that's his Saiyan name. Bardock's wondering, why is Kakarot injured? Well, it turns out he was hurt by Frieza. And Bardock's more amazed than confused. He somehow survived an encounter with Frieza? That's amazing. He never would have thought Kakarot would have been able to do that. Well, there's more than that. Kakarot says he actually defeated Frieza. Bardock then tries to sense Frieza's ki, and he can't anymore. Kakarot's telling the truth. He actually defeated Frieza. And that's not even the craziest part. Kakarot is a Super Saiyan. Bardock doesn't even know what to say. This is such huge news. His son is alive, he's a Super Saiyan, and he defeated Frieza. This is the best day of his life. But he does have one question though. Does Kakarot know anything about Raditz's whereabouts? Yeah, that's where it gets kinda awkward. Oh, so Raditz is dead. But Kakarot can explain. First of all, he technically wasn't the one who killed Raditz, that was Piccolo. Plus, Raditz attacked his planet. This was in self-defense if anything. It's kinda awkward to explain, but he even says if Bardock wants they could revive him later. And this is a shock to Bardock as well. There's so much that Goku needs to explain. Bardock tells him to grab onto his shoulder, using instant transmission to bring both of them to civilization. And there's actually something that Bardock forgot to tell Goku about. He was too wrapped up in all the stuff about Frieza that he didn't even realize. He barely got to tell Kakarot about why he's here and how he got here. Goku is amazed. He's surrounded by a bunch of aliens. And then, two human-looking people run out of a building, both female. This is going to be a weird family reunion. Who are these two people? Bardock introduces the two of them. Gine, Goku's mother, and a second woman named Ruta, who just so happens to be Goku's sister. He has a sister too? Yeah, this is kind of a bombshell. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. A lot, and I mean a lot of comments have been asking me, what if Goku had a sister? And we're going to introduce her here. We'll get more into her backstory, but considering Bardock and Gine have been on this planet for over 20 years, it's not unlikely that they have another kid. That's why she's even wearing Bardock's old armor, which was salvaged and repaired. So of course they're excited to meet Kakarot, and then they figure out what happened with him and why he's here. Gine's a bit saddened to hear that Raditz died, but she can understand why Goku had to defeat him. As for Ruta, she's only heard stories about both of her brothers, so it's amazing to see even one of them here. In terms of personality, I'd say she's a little bit like Gine and Bardock, a mix of them. And unlike Gine, she's actually a fighter, or at least wants to be. She's been training with some Yardrat techniques as well. I'd imagine her like a much more approachable version of Bardock, one who's a lot more friendly, something that she'd get from her mother. And while this is big news for them, it's also huge news for Goku. Yeah, he knew about Raditz of course, but it turns out the rest of his family's alive. And he has a younger sibling. I mean, none of them really know how to process any of this, but gradually over time, they'll get used to it. And Kakarot decides he's going to spend some time here, catching up with his family and also training. Bardock healed him before, which is kind of huge, and he wants to learn the kind of techniques that the Yardrats have. Also, he wants to learn how to go Super Saiyan at will, and he's going to need a lot more training for that. So, Goku joins in training with the Yardrats, with Bardock and Ruta as teachers. In terms of pure strength, Kakarot is way above both of them, but they have some crazy techniques. With all this training, Bardock of course knows spirit control. We saw that when he healed Goku, and of course when he used instant transmission. But spirit control does more than just that. I'm sure all of you have seen in the Dragon Ball Super manga by now. All the different kinds of stuff that Vegeta can do because of this. Spirit control allows you to duplicate yourself. It lets you change your size. You can teleport. There's so many things. Not to mention, it greatly increases your power overall. And of course, as we saw in one of the most recent chapters, Force Spirit Fission is the thing, where you can essentially take energy from someone and distribute it wherever you like. And it's a pretty overpowered technique when you think about it. Bardock essentially has mastery over this, and Ruta has some basic spirit control techniques and a few of the more advanced ones. So even though Goku is a lot stronger in terms of his pure strength, Bardock and Ruta's techniques far outclass Goku's. And yeah, they're not calling him Goku either, they stick with the Kakarot thing. It's just weird to use an Earthling name. It's great that they're all here. Bardock's pretty proud of his son, and they're not too concerned about the whole Raditz thing. Because first of all, according to Kakarot, they could bring him back somehow. And secondly, that's Raditz's own fault that he got killed. And Ruta actually gets along pretty well with her brother. Not only is it awesome to actually meet him, but their personalities work well together. At least this time his sibling isn't trying to kill him, and because of that alone, they're already better off than he was with Raditz. Hopefully he won't be like that when they revive him. Time passes, and back on Earth, we arrive at the point when Frieza and King Cold are returning. And of course, Trunks is there already, prepared to face off against them. As he goes Super Saiyan, out of nowhere, 4 people appear in front of him. One of them is Goku, but he's just confused. Who are the rest of these guys? How did they even get here? The Dragon team is watching nearby and they're very confused as well. And of course, Frieza and King Cold are pretty livid. Frieza recognizes Goku, and there's another Saiyan that looks just like him. This just ticks him off. But he's also a bit scared. 2 Super Saiyans. Crap. Goku takes over and fights against King Cold, while Bardock offers to fight against Frieza. Surely he can't match Frieza in terms of power, can he? Well, he doesn't need to. Goku and Trunks take on King Cold pretty easily. I mean, one of them's overkill as it is. But hey, Trunks likes fighting alongside him regardless. Ruta even joins in alongside Bardock to fight Frieza, mostly to just spectate and try and learn some stuff. Bardock tells her to watch closely. He begins attacking Frieza, and he is pretty strong, but he's not nearly on the level that Frieza is. Frieza's just amused by this. Does this guy think he could really stand up against him? Kakarot might have not killed Frieza before, but Bardock's gonna finish the job for him. Frieza then throws a punch at Bardock, and Bardock doesn't react at all. This guy must be stronger than Frieza thought he was. No matter though. He begins attacking more, but his punches start doing less and less to Bardock. He even launches a death beam, which just bounces right off Bardock's chest. And suddenly, he starts to feel a bit exhausted. It turns out this entire time, Bardock's been utilizing Force Spirit Fission. That took me like 5 takes to say, it's kind of a tongue twister. Thank God I actually got that right. Back to the fight though, Bardock's been using this and been draining Frieza's energy very slowly. Frieza is exhausted, he has no energy left. And he looks up and sees, above Bardock, he's been gathering all of Frieza's energy. He then draws it back down to him, focusing it into a massive blast. Using all of Frieza's stolen energy, Bardock launches a massive blast at Frieza that kills him. Bardock sees it as kind of poetic in a way. Frieza took everything from the Saiyans. So, as a nice plate of revenge, Bardock took everything from Frieza and used it against him, killing the Space Tyrant. Of course, Goku and Trunks had no problem taking on King Cold, but now everyone's confused. Trunks doesn't know who these 3 Saiyans are. Bardock, Gine, and Ruta don't know who anyone on Earth is. Goku doesn't know who Trunks is, and everyone else that's there is just completely stunned overall because they see Trunks and then they see these 3 other Saiyans. What's going on? Also, Goku basically teleported here. This one Saiyan defeated Frieza without even going to Super Saiyan, and then this other guy is a Super Saiyan as well. They're gonna need a lot of things explained to them. So, Goku decides to introduce everyone. And it takes a long time, but everyone eventually catches up to speed. This is pretty weird for Gohan too. He now has 2 extra grandparents and an aunt. Weird. But more confusing than that is this Trunks guy. And Trunks pulls Goku to the side to talk to him alone. He tells Goku his true identity, but Goku only, telling him about the androids and the heart virus. Also, he doesn't remember his mom mentioning anything about Goku having an extra family. That's a pretty important detail to leave out. It gets him kind of worried. Did she forget about it? Did she purposely leave it out for a reason? Or, worst case scenario, Goku never did have his extra family here, and this place he traveled to isn't the same as his main timeline. He hopes that's not the case, but he's gonna have to ask Bulma about it. Everyone thanks him and he returns back to his timeline, hoping for the best. He'll be back in 3 years to make sure everything's okay with the androids. Okay, but more importantly than the androids right now, there's 3 extra Saiyans on Earth, 2 of whom are fighters. Once we go into the android saga, things are about to get really interesting, but we'll save that for the next part. Let's leave off here for now. So what did you guys think about this part, and what do you think will happen next time? How do you think these 3 Saiyans will affect the story? And what do you think about the addition of Ruta? Let me know your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check them out to see what you guys think. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, and let's try to hit that like goal from the beginning of the video. If you haven't already, why not subscribe, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notified about any future parts of this What If, or any other videos that I upload on my channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.